welcome to this weekly Wednesday live. It's been a couple of weeks, so I'll take a bit of a break, but now I'm really pleased to have Ollie Matthews joining me on the live. I really want to say, Ollie, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining.
No worries. I appreciate being here, Alex.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about getting strong, not a topic that I usually talk about in terms of, people think getting strong, what are you trying to be Schwarzenegger or something like that? Now, what I mean is getting strong like mentally, physically, because, the body and the mind are connected. We speak about that a lot. And really, if if you're doing the basics, you're kind of covered 90% of the time, I believe, anyway. And Ollie and I will talk about that. Just a bit of background where I know Ollie from. We met through actually the guy who's my coach now, Stephen. Stephen, you Ollie and Stephen worked together when I was in Peru the first time last year in May 2022. We were sat in a restaurant, Stephen and I. He was like, Alex, you have really good potential with your body to do something. I reckon you should get a coach, a fitness coach, or a trainer. And I've had personal trainers before and looked at nutrition. I've been in and out of the gym for over 10 years. And I was like, I've had mediocre results from fitness coaching, got to be honest, until I found you, Ollie. And somehow it just skyrocketed. Lost 12 kilos. I wasn't expecting much. I think I told you, whatever, and I procrastinated a bit. Lost 12 kilos, better sleep, better everything in my life. So it works. You work. So I'll leave it to you, Ollie. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm a functional medicine practitioner, nutrition therapist. There's a little bit of life coaching going on in there, as we know about, and like previous personal trainer, I used to work with professional endurance athletes. But since around 2016, 17 is when I've just really dived into the functional medicine side and working with busy business owners, professionals, entrepreneurs. There's some celebrities in there that are like going all around the UK, people not just in the UK, in the US, as we've said about. We've done most of our work wasn't actually while you were over here in the UK. You were in South America, I believe, for a lot of it as well. That's and right. We'll talk about Stephen coaching him. He lives in Budapest, and his brother is in America. So people all around the world. But just looking at what are the things that stress does to our body and how can we be proactive? People talk about being healthy, being optimized, but so many people wait because health is easy until it isn't, until you end up that you break, you get sick, you end up that you can't then show up as you need to show up in the world, whether it's in your business, whether it's for your kids, for your husband, wife, your parents. You can't support them as you want to. But too many of us wait until we're in that moment and then we do something. Or we're basically surviving throughout the year rather than thriving. And then we're about to burn out, but we go on holiday, on a vacation for a week or two, just to get enough charge to get us through another year. And my job is to say, look, you deserve better than that. You deserve to be able to be 100% optimized. You'd be able to be thriving without going through all these marketing tactics that we see a lot of the times with, I'm not against biohacking, but I see a lot in the biohacking space of we can overcomplicate things because it gives us a dopamine release to say we're doing it, the sexy stuff, the 5%, but we're not doing the 95. So we look at what are these foundations. Just editing a podcast for a guy that is training to climb Mount Everest, and he's actually doing it in May, and he's got his expedition all planned out, and he's self-funding it and just editing that, ready to go out. A guy called Stuart Webber, and I've got a chapter in my book about Everest, and it's a picture of Everest over there. That too many people, when we look at Everest in relation to our health, too many people want to climb the mountain first off without getting cold, but they also are trying to summit something, but not worried about that down. They don't want to summit the mountain. But climbing Everest isn't the ultimate goal. Climbing Everest and getting back down safely is the goal. A lot of deaths happen on Everest on the way down because people just take their eye off the ball. But not only that, we have to acclimatize at base camp before we climb the mountain. And that base camp level of health, of fitness, gets you so far. Because then you can do these rotations up the mountain. You can go to like camp 1, acclimatize camp 2, and that's launching this business. Right, that's going. Now I can do another launch, and I can do another retreat. I can do a mastermind, and I can get higher and higher up the mountain and not burn out. Too many people are risking burnout every single day, procrastinating when we need to do something about it.
Yeah, 100%. And that's one of the things that we both talk about as well. We both dovetail the burnout thing.
Yeah.
And in terms of what you said that health is easy until it isn't. You
Yeah.
know, and I've had people come to me, I'm sure that people have come to you too, when they're already at the burnout stage. But I reckon that most people, nearly everyone actually, I don't know, I'm not going to put a number on it now,
Yeah.
can avoid getting to that critical point, the breaking point, where I'm not sure if you've been there when people have been in hospital. I've helped people who have been in hospital. I'm not sure if you have as well. It's about avoiding that. So what are some of the practical, simple things that people can do to avoid getting to that breaking point? I don't know if you have like some top tips, and let's not use the word hacks. Like you just mentioned biohacking. I hate biohacking.
Yeah.
I hate, like, the word hack is just a hack. I hate that word.
Yeah. I've used it for one of my lead magnets. I'm like, there's no hacks to health really, but it's a good marketing word. It's a good buzzword. But the hack is the boring stuff over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
You see people trying to hack their way through a workout routine. I've hardly changed my workout routine over the last few years. I might change the intensity and go easy on it and maybe rotate a couple of exercises. But as long as my strength is going up, I'm getting this muscular overload, then why do I need to keep changing it with all these fancy exercises that I see YouTubers doing all the time? And it's just like, as long as there is progressive overload, and I think we see that with stress, but one of the biggest things we can do to improve our health before we burn out is actually love ourselves and put ourselves first.
Beautiful.
And I think that too many of us struggle. And one of the reasons we struggle is because we're putting our kids first. We're putting our wives, our husbands, we're putting our other halves first. We're putting our business first. But someone said to me the other day, well, it came up on a reel. Would you die for your kids? And people say, yeah, I would die for my kids. Good. Well, live for them. So many people procrastinate on health. And I, as we spoke about before, that my dad died when I was 15, which is why I do what I do. He was stressed out. He was providing for his family. He was wanting to retire at 55, and he died at 47. And there were signs. He was stressed out. He was having migraines, but he's trying to provide for his family. As a result of providing financially, he was then stopped being able to provide physically. When I was 15, like Monday, he was healthy. Saturday, we had to turn off his life support machine after a stroke. He went into hospital with a migraine. Like there are signs there. I've had people come to me say, I know I'm burning out. I've had someone that I spoke to that is really, really well known where I live. And he said that, I said, how do you stay on top of your fitness? He said, I don't. I'm like, why? Because that will mean you're such a better dad, like, because you're able to have more energy there. And things like a guy signed up, it took with him thinking he was having a heart attack. Spoke to him a year ago. It took until a couple of months ago thinking he was having a heart attack to sign up. And you're so far past that point of being healthy that it takes a long while to then start to see the results. Like when you signed up, if you're all good with talking about
it. Let's talk about it. Go ahead.
That you were in a place where you could optimize, shall we say. So say like this is optimal. And this is unhealthy. Like there's this bit in the middle where it's easy to push into optimal. But if you're unhealthy, you have to push into healthy before you get into optimal. And people that are in this top bit of healthy, that's great to work with those people, because you end up getting the work done like you did. So you then see the results. But with a lot of times for people, I do a lot of blood testing, and it's not surprising to me now when I look at people's lifestyles, but how low testosterone is in people, in a lot of guys nowadays. And just, it's not, their lifestyle isn't conducive to having good levels of testosterone. So the problem we see with that is that their energy is low. So their chances of sticking to a plan is low. So then they try and do stuff. Well, one thing they then get addicted to is this dopamine rush. So they say they can't train once or twice a week, and that's not what's happening. So they've tried it and it's not happened. So they then say, all right, I'm going to do 75 hard. I'm going to smash it. I'm going to do twice a day workouts for 75 days in a row. I'm not going to drink or anything. And then they fall off and have to start again because it's that sexy stuff to talk about. I hardly ever post when I'm in the gym, but I'm going 4 or 5 times a week in, week out. Consistency of ticking those boxes. And I think similar with business, of putting out content, consistent content over and over again. We're not going to get, like, we might get one reel that goes viral every now and then, but it's not going to be every single reel. But you see, you get 100, 200, 300, 400 views, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And if someone's getting something from that, it's powerful. And you leave this blueprint of people being able to look over your previous content, but you're ticking the boxes and building the muscles up. And I think that, yeah, like one of the biggest things we struggle with is loving ourselves, because we say we're busy loving our kids, loving our family, but actually in reality, we're just killing ourselves. And too many people, like, would you die for your kids? Yes. We'll get healthy for them. Yeah,
pretty much. I mean, and that's what a lot of people miss. I'm not a parent myself. Actually, I never asked you if you're a parent.
We're in the process.
You're in the process. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've worked with many parents.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how hard it is as a kid, except theoretically. I've seen my parents, my brother. He has a kid, 3-year-old. My fiance's sister, my uncle and aunt. So I've got like 3 Peruvian nieces and nephews. But it's hard, and I don't know how hard it is myself. What I do know is exactly what you said about self-care, self-love. That's why my 3rd book coming out in 2025 is called 7-Figure Self-Care. What does that mean? It means treating yourself like the most beautiful, blessed, and prosperous being in the universe, because that's exactly what you are.
Yeah.
It's just that for some things, conditions not to do. Same thing as you said. Get healthy for yourself, for your kids. You know? Staying healthy, staying on top of the game. And you said that thing about consistency, whether it's consistency with working out or on your business with content. And the time that I was the fittest and healthiest in my life was my early 20s. I'm in my early 30s now. And I don't know if it was because I was in my early 20s, but what I was doing is I was hitting the gym 3 times a week, 1-hour workouts, just the barbell. You probably had starting strength before. It's the workout when it's like just 5 compound exercises. Squats, deadlifts, bench press, overhead press, and rows. That's it. Did those lifts. Simple. 300 for years. And my strength just kept going up and up and up. Simple consistency. And I think with the self-love and the consistency that you were mentioning, I'm going to come back to. But I first want to talk about the migraines, because you mentioned your dad having the migraines. And I suffered from migraines. So this is actually how I burned out for months, over 6 months. I don't remember how long. I had migraines. I had migraines my whole life. And I just thought, I'm the kind of guy who gets migraines every couple of months. My mum does. My little sister does. It's just a genetic thing. That's what I thought. And then the migraines got more and more frequent as I worked longer and longer hours. Busy season at work, 6 days a week, 18-hour days sometimes, away from home. And the migraine was one day so bad, it was a Tuesday, that I was just saying to the team of girls I was managing, it was like 2 women, young women. I just said to them, look, it was 10 a.m., 10:30 a.m. I'm the client. I've got to go home, got a migraine. One of them drove me home. And the funny thing was, as soon as I got out of the car and I was in my apartment, the migraine stopped. Weird. Called up my manager and said to her, like, Nat, I'm taking a sick day. She was like going, you can't do that, this and that, and all this at work. And like, migraine came back again. Hung up the phone, disappeared. And what I came to realize years later, for me anyway, I'm not sure if it was the same for your dad or any of your clients, the migraines were the result of stress and repressed anger. I'm a very angry person. People look at me and say, you're so cool. That's what they may see on the outside. I'm an incredibly angry person. I can really fuck up people's shit. The problem was I repressed it. The main way I repressed it was smoking cigarettes. I said that to you, Ollie, when we were working together. There was like 1-2 times where I relapsed and I was like, I had a cigarette. I think I even said, Ollie, I'm embarrassed to tell you. Like, what's there to be embarrassed about? It was a dopamine fix. You said about the dopamine fix. And it was only when I learned to let go of that, to really express the anger in a way where I can healthily, constructively, like hitting the gym for a workout, getting the boxing gloves on, hitting the bag or whatever, and then talking it through. I've not had a migraine for months and months and months now, even despite things like jet lag when I traveled to Peru and this and that. So I wasn't sure. What would you? That's one problem aside by migraine. What would you suggest to someone who comes to you, Ollie, and says, "I'm getting these migraines. What should I do?"
It depends on the individual. I used to suffer with migraines, and yes, there's the stresses in your life. But what is causing the stress? Is it a physical stress, or is it a psychological stress that is work-related stress? It's relationship stress, and something which we need to speak about and talk about. Is it that repressed anger? But one thing that a lot of people don't look at is stuff like gluten and cross contaminants of gluten. Some instant coffee, some red wine, some corn, oats, and things like that. Like they can cross contaminate. I know myself. If I have gluten, chances are I will get a migraine. I'm not celiac, but the problem with celiac is it attests like 1 out of 14 different strains of gluten, of alpha gliadin, rather than the omega and like different types of gliadin, a protein within gluten. But it also only tests for, we have these things called transglutaminases in our body, and they're what this gluten reacts to. And it tests for a reaction to transglutaminase 2, so TG2. Now that is, if you get that reaction, that's celiac. That's your gut reacting to gluten. Now, we also know that every single person on this planet will react to gluten. Their lining of their gut will open up. It's just how much. Is it going to be noticeable? So like we need some permeability. We need some holes in our gut lining. So imagine your gut lining, there's some holes. It'll open up, become more permeable at different types. Gluten will open it up. But a lot of people, it opens it up too much. So we see a gut reaction. So that's TG2s. There's also TGs 3 and 6, or 4 and 6. Apologies if I've got those numbers wrong. That react with skin and neurological. So when people are having things like eczema, psoriasis, autoimmune conditions, or they're getting rashes and reactions to their skin, and we're putting creams on it. First off, our skin is the biggest organ in the body. We forget about that. If you wouldn't eat it, don't put it on your skin. It's simple as that. If you don't want that in your body, don't put it on your skin. And it's hard for people to think about that stuff. But and especially when we look at things like the sun creams, like the blocks and things like that, different perfumes and aftershave, all these different things, we're putting so much on our skin. But if you wouldn't put it in your body, don't put it on your body. So sometimes people are reacting with gluten in the form of skin. But the neurological side, now these are people that would have a celiac test with their doctor, with their Western medicine doctor, and they would be told they're fine with gluten. We can do a different test, an array, I think it's an array 4, on a Cyrex Labs test. And again, there's like array 2 to like 20 something, but it's not a cheap test. It's a few $100s to do it, but it will tell us if you're reacting with those different gluten, like TG2s, 4s and 6s, 3s and 6s. It will tell us where you're reacting. Now, I react with the neurological side. If I'm not stressed, like really chilled out, I can probably get away with it a little bit. But the next day, chances are I'll get a migraine. So that's one thing, gluten. But another thing which people overlook a lot is mold and mold exposure. There are things in mold called mycotoxins, and they're very reactive to the body. Now, I grew up in a room, which was a really small room that had black mold in it. And we moved there when I was 2. And I think we moved out when I was like 17, 18.
Wow.
So I was there for 16 years. Now, this is not to like, if you're a parent and you've got black mold in there, like this is not pointing the finger at you or anything, because my mum was doing what she needed to do. She didn't know. We don't know back then how dangerous mold was. So whenever I get exposed to mold now, I start having sniffles, and it's changed. Like we've had to get the dehumidifiers out because the heat here. When did you leave the UK again?
It was about a month ago.
Actually, you might have been here for like a little bit later. Like it was warmer later. Like in October, it was still a bit warm, and then suddenly it changed, and there was mold buildup, and it didn't react until that change of the season. So it caught us by surprise with getting the dehumidifiers out. We live in a house that is 110 years old, like an old like 3-bedroom terrace house, and so we had some problems with mold. So my nose started cutting inside. So I'm having to sniff all the time and having N-acetylcysteine nose spray. But back in March, I was speaking in Miami, and I went to see a client in Orlando for a race before he went to his event in Miami. So we had 2 nights in an Airbnb, and there was mold in that Airbnb. And the second day, so I had 1 night in there. Then it was a really small room in this Airbnb. There was no windows or anything. I don't know how it classed as a bedroom legally, probably, but it was like a wardrobe, just a cupboard, a closet in there.
Oh no!
And I felt like I was like Harry Potter or something under the stairs. But it was very much that I was there for 2 nights, and on the third day, so after the second night, I started getting really, really itchy eyes and couldn't see. It was like I had some eye infection, and then I started getting a migraine. So we traveled to Miami, and I was supposed to present on that first day of the event. And I just said, look, Ron, I can't see. I'm looking here and you're there. Like, if I look straight, you disappear. And I lose my vision. And it's really like the first few times it happened with my dad dying of a stroke, my hand tingling, like it was worrying. And now it's, oh, I know it's coming. I need to get home or get to bed, get to sleep. And then afterwards, I get the headaches. So people get different. I get hemiplegic migraines. And it's we lose like the center of our vision, then it starts going out and it comes back after about an hour, and then it's painful. And I got 8 migraines in a week.
Jeez.
So that was from mold exposure for 2 days. And I got 8 migraines. Yes, okay, we can add the stress of then going back home and jet lag added to that. But I'd had about 4 migraines before I got back on the plane. And then I got home and I had to spend probably about £400 or £500 on a protocol to get that mold, the toxins out of my system to help detox, which is another thing a lot of people do struggle with. But I would say that gluten, mold, stress, but what is that stress? Is it coming from gluten or mold? They're 3 big things that are giving people migraines.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. So we spoke about that, like the gluten, which it's literally everyone, because the body, well, it's like stimulus, gluten response in the gut. Mold, I would imagine, also affects everyone who is exposed to that in some way. I'm sorry to hear that the whole 2 to 17-year-old now. It's just terrible.
It's crazy.
Not to pin the blame on anyone. So it's terrible. Something like 50 years ago, we didn't know how bad asbestos was. You know?
Yeah. Even things like smoking and stuff. Like, remember that during the war, people were having smoking and thinking it was just a cool thing to do. And this is where we worry again with vaping. Where does that go?
Same thing.
Like the weight loss drug semaglutide that has come out, like these GLP antagonists or agonists, they're the ones that they may seem good at first, but how bad are they over a long period of time?
We don't know. And I remember at uni,
they might be fine,
yeah,
but chances are they're probably not.
Who knows? Like, I remember at uni, there was a thing called the precautionary principle, sociological concept, but it basically means, in simple language, if you don't know the risk of something, you should probably avoid it as an individual society, because you don't know what the risk is. That's not to be scared of everything. Like, I don't know. Be a Daily Mail reader where everything causes cancer. It's just a case of, like, if you don't know the risks behind something, maybe you should be a bit skeptical. Like, we don't know about vaping. There's not enough long-term studies. We know, and you said cigarettes like 50 years ago. I remember there's one of my favorite movies, a claymation animation. Guy says was smoking cigarettes there. It's obviously a comedy. He's like, he went to the doctor and says, well, the smoke is like steam for your lungs, so you should smoke even more for your illnesses. So that's what he did. And the doctor was smoking. They were saying that. I smoke. We spoke about nicotine. Stopped using that. Alcohol. I actually cut back on a lot when we were working together, simply because I wanted to lose weight and sleep better. And I stopped drinking during that time, except for Christmas and one other occasion, I think. And I don't remember the last time I drank a beer or anything like that. I remember I was in the bar last time I was in London. I was like, you got any 0.0 beers? I was like, nah. Like, okay, I'll take an orange juice. It's not an issue for me now. But things like alcohol, nicotine, we spoke about gluten. I'm lactose intolerant too, so that's something I've got to watch out for. Get a really bad reaction. Anything else that people should be like?
I think we're also kidding ourselves, because things that are common aren't necessarily normal. But if you wake up through the night, things that are common aren't necessarily normal. Just because waking through the night multiple times is common, and as we get older, more and more people are doing it, doesn't mean it's normal. Maybe if you're waking up quickly to go to the toilet once during the night and able to get straight back to sleep, but you should be able to sleep all the way through. You should be able to get deep restorative levels of sleep. to be able to restore and recharge. But the alcohol thing's a big one, because alcohol and caffeine are the two drugs we have to justify not taking in society, it seems. No doubt when you stop drinking, people were saying, "Oh, why you stopped drinking?"
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they were like, well, even that, like, one time, that same bar I went to, the guy, I felt like I had to give an excuse, and I felt maybe I should tell him I have an allergy to alcohol.
Exactly, right? Like, they're the drugs we have to justify not taking.
Yeah, coffee as well. I remember it, like, in my, like, colleagues of mine, there was one guy who didn't drink coffee at all. Everyone drank coffee. I drink coffee, and then I was just like, why having a hot chocolate? I was the one asking him to justify. That's like, he doesn't have to justify himself, but you're right.
And like decaf and stuff like that. And you think, why am I worried about what they're eating? And like, when I go out with friends, like we went out with someone from our church last night, and they were saying, "Oh, I have to watch what I'm eating around you." It's like, you don't have to watch at all what you're eating around me. Like, it's not going to impact me. Like, enjoy your food. But if you're my client and you're eating that stuff, then I'll probably nudge you to say, "Do you really want to eat that stuff?" If I'm with you. But that's where the accountability comes in. But I think like things like the alcohol, in a healthy detoxing body, in a body that is liver is functioning, we can get away with around 2 drinks a week, 2 per week. Like, and that's units, by the way, not
2 units a week.
And that can be a medium glass of alcohol, a glass of wine. So that's units when we look at drinks. So we can get away with them each week. And that's if your liver is functioning effectively. And remember, the liver is very, very included with detoxification. A lot of detoxification pathways are going on. It's its main job, really. And we're getting hit by toxins left, right, and center from the environment. I live in Norfolk. It's a big farming county. It's got very poor air quality. Then you look at the center of London with the diesel fumes, which impact detoxification. Like these centers, like you look at the city centers that people live in, and the fumes we're thrown at left, right, and center, mold exposure. Then we chuck alcohol at it. Then we chuck stresses at late nights and not getting good sleep. Can we really deal with 2 units of alcohol, or should we have none? I don't like the taste of alcohol. That's one of the things which has helped me with not drinking it. If I like the taste, maybe I'd have one every now and then. But if we're getting 1 drink every night, and then at the weekend we have half a bottle of wine, then we finish it, or on the Saturday we have half a bottle of wine, we then finish it on the Sunday, we're technically binge drinking. And we justify it because so many other people are justifying it. And then we wonder why we don't get ahead. And I'm not anti-alcohol, but I'm pro-awareness of why you're not getting ahead with your health.
Yeah. I mean, if someone sets a goal, and we both work with high-achieving people, that I only, and I guess you too, only work with high-achieving people. Because if someone...
I work with high achievers that they think they're high performers, but they're high achievers that want to become high performers.
Exactly. Same. Like I have a blanket thing. If someone shows up late or doesn't show for a call with me, especially the first without a justification, I simply point blank don't work with them, and I say, thank you. I hope you find the help you need. Simple as that. And I don't work with them because I only work with people who are committed and achieving, because they're the only people who can get the results that they want to get, and it may not be what they expect. You know, they come with what they want. I give them what they need, as you do too. And the same with working with you. If I showed up for a cool 1 hour Zoom sessions, like eating a Krispy Kreme donut or something like that, or chugging a pint of beer, you'd be like, Alex, what the fuck are you doing, mate?
Exactly.
You want to invest in this? And you kept me accountable. I send you the numbers. You even had the app. I had to plug the numbers in there of my lifts and all of that in the gym. I remember. I think that's what you do with all your clients. And another thing, the binge drinking, that's a common thing in the UK, especially like when I work in companies like Thursday. It was always Thursday evening in the office because hybrid policy. Thursday, and let's go out to the pub, have a couple of pints. But then the next day, even a couple of days later, I can't hack it, and it's another reason why. So my sleep is more important to me. And from the other side of the pond, we have Lorraine here. She's like, I agree with everything. I've investigated a lot about this topic. I think this was when we were talking about toxins. It's completely true. And if anyone else wants to pipe in, I see there were a lot of people in the UK who are watching right now. Can't see who's watching exactly on LinkedIn, but if you comment, feel free to comment, ask Ollie or me a question. And I want to go back to some of these basics because we're talking about sleep now, Ollie, and this is something that you talk about in your one of the PDFs. This one over here, the 8 hacks to reduce stress and eliminate brain fog. that we're talking about, and you can download. It's on OJ Health, your website. People can download this. Is that right?
Yep. It's just like you copy in your email list and information all there.
Yeah, I love this. Always has an excuse not to prioritize their health. Love that. And I'll let people read that in time. But it's here: be consistent with your sleep times. That's the number one thing. Let's talk about that for a second. Sleep. That's something that and I'm going to be honest and a bit personal now. I go to bed early and wake up early. My fiance Chris goes to bed late and wakes up late. That's difficult for us to be like consistent, and it is about like we're kind of going to sleep in the middle at the moment. Like, I would love to be in bed by 9 p.m. Maybe a bit lame, but it's just how I roll. 9 p.m. bedtime, 6 a.m. wake up time. Her, on the other hand, 2 a.m. bedtime, 9 a.m. wake up time, or something like that, with 10 a.m. We're kind of meeting in the middle, midnight at the moment. Midnight or 11 p.m. in bed. But how great tip that being consistent with sleep and wake up time. How does it work in practice? We sleep with a partner, or we may have kids want to come in and this and that. How is it possible in practice?
I think it works with consistency of doing the best you can.
Mm-hmm.
If you're with partners, hopefully, like when you get with your partner, like they know why you want to sleep early. They can see that Chris can see a better Alex if you get to sleep earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Like Laura, my wife, can see a better Ollie if I'm tired and I go to bed. And there's times when we won't go to bed at the same time. But when I speak with clients with kids, it's my children wake me up all the time. Well, what about on the nights where your children don't wake you up? How are you doing there? And if you are only getting 4 hours sleep, how do we make that 4 hours sleep the best 4 hours?
Mm.
And are you doing stuff that just because you're only getting 4 hours sleep doesn't mean you're going to have more cravings? Absolutely. You're going to be craving sugar a lot more because you're going to be fatigued. You're going to be craving this stuff a lot more. But how do we make the most of it? So first off, are you setting yourself up to go to sleep at the same time? What happens with children? When people say, I always used to remember, like as a kid, watching EastEnders here in the UK.
Yeah.
And that bedtime. And then you pretend to be asleep on the sofa or something, so you didn't have to go to bed, or you'd like crave like another half an hour watching whatever junk was on TV straight after that. But it was routine. I'd be going to sleep at like 7:30, 8 p.m. as a kid. And the body liked that. And then you'd be waking up at the same time. And then someone say that I was doing a talk with some young adults a few weeks back, and we spoke about night owls. I said, who here's a night owl? And a few people put their hands up. I said, can you see in the dark? And they're like, what? Exactly. So you're not a night owl. Is that our chronological type does differ by a little bit, but not to the times like we push it. And we get this adrenaline rush of like light exposure, which keeps us awake, and melatonin drops, cortisol then goes up. There's so many different things going on in our body when we have this exposure to light, which allows us to stay up later. But the more consistent you can be with going to sleep and waking up, the better your health will be. And that includes at the weekends. Things like you've got an Aura ring. That will show you over every quarter, it shows you the average. Mine was about 4 or 5 minutes different between weekdays and weekends. Okay, it helps when you're in a role where your business is online and you're working with clients around the world. Actually, no, it doesn't, because I have clients in Taiwan and clients in LA. So they're like, or clients in like Australia, New Zealand, Taiwan. They're all over there on the east side of the world, and then there's the LA side of things on the west side of the world. So like, there's people all over the show. So actually, it isn't a fact that it's easier. It's how we schedule our own day. But I know that those clients that are on earlier time zones in the UK, I won't do them earlier than 8 a.m. And that's 1 day a week. I'll offer that on my non-training day. And the ones that are the other side has to be in their morning. And I won't work after 8 p.m. So it's having that time. I don't work all the time through them, but just having those boundaries that we're not when we look at work side of things. Family, obviously, it is different. And with relationships, I think one of the biggest things that I've worked on with my wife is communication. And I struggled with that. I'm on the autism spectrum with ADHD. She's got ADHD, and it was very much a struggle with communication. And also, like, I'm one of the people that wants to do things my way. She's one of the people that wants to do things her way. Like, my type of ADHD is always being early. Hers is always being late. So we average out that we're on time, really. Think of it like that. But it was communication of, I want to go to sleep. Here's why I want to go to sleep early. And I don't mind if you stay up late if you want to, but here's the reason that I'm going to go to sleep early. It's not because I don't want to spend time with you. And here's what we can do. That she works during the day. She gets home around 5:30, 6 o'clock. So we'll have date nights booked in. We'll have time when she'll watch some nonsense on TV, and I'm like, I'll watch a little bit of nonsense with you. I won't stretch as far as Love Island or anything like that. I definitely won't do that. I don't want to kill my brain cells. But no offense if anyone watches Love Island that's watching, but I just won't get to those points. But if she wants to do that, then she uses that time after I've gone to bed to watch those things. Mm. But I do think communication is such an underrated tool in relationships. It's such an underrated thing that we forget about, is that I'm so literal with communication. Like, she told me, or she didn't tell me, she asked me, could I empty the dishwasher after my first meal? Well, she forgot that I was fasting that day, and my first meal was our dinner. And she's like, why didn't you empty the dishwasher after your first meal? Like, this is my first meal, and that's what you said to do. So it's very much like having to get used to those communication styles. And I think, like, maybe touch on ADHD and like how much there is neurodiversity going on nowadays, and the impact that has on relationships with communication, and having to get used to this communication and not blaming other people for it when they forget things, when they're late. I struggle with people being late. I hate that. As we've said, it's different in a business relationship with a client, but like when it's in your relationship and they're always late, and I like to be somewhere 5 minutes early, then it's very much that we have to communicate this stuff. And I think it does go again with sleep as well. We've kind of like, I've digressed off the question there a bit, but.
No worries. Yeah, I mean, it was so interesting. I think I almost forgot what the question was, but I mean, the two takeaways, communication and consistency. And we're talking about sleep in a relationship, getting that consistent sleep time. But this thing that you were saying about being late, because here in Latin America, timing is different. You know, I've lived in Austria. Austria is like not as strict as Germany, but a German-speaking culture. You know, it's like on time. UK, we are respectful of people's time, generally speaking. I remember one time when I was working in a company, and I had a British manager, and he even brought me up. He was just like in a one-to-one meeting. He was like, Alex, you're always 2 minutes late for the team meeting every day because you're getting a cup of tea. And I was like, oh, I didn't even realize that. You know, I was like, you know, but so I appreciate that. But then here, that's in America. You've been to Colombia a lot. I'm in Peru. Things are a bit different with time.
Yeah, culturally.
You know, if you say I'll be there at 2, that means I'm going to think about leaving and getting changed at 2. And even yesterday with Chris, you know, I was like, I'll meet you at the office after work because I had some time before a meeting. And I left the apartment at 6 o'clock so I could go to Starbucks and get her favorite coffee on the way there. I got myself a green tea and was there 6:28 to get ready for 6:30. And she knew I had a meeting. I had to be there at 7. It takes me half hour to walk. She didn't come down. Messaged her, saw the message, called her, said I was coming there, and I just said, okay, I'm going to leave you coffee here, and I'm going to walk away. There's your coffee's on the table in the lobby, and walk off. She came down like 20 seconds after I sent that message, as I was literally walking out the door, and she was like hugging me, being all like, again, yeah, sorry, kiss me, all this kind of stuff. I'm like, again, that's not fair. You can do that because you're a woman. I can't do that. I can't do that. Kiss him, so sorry, and sweet, and be sweet. Okay, but communication. That's the main thing with boundaries and consistency. Communication with your partner, if it's children, communicating with them in a different way. Colleagues, if you're in a company, boss to employee, entrepreneur to client, client to entrepreneur, etc. It's just communication. And it's not about being so strict or aggressive or anything like that. It's clarity, I think. So many of us are in vagueness. We're vague about speech. We're vague about time. Some of us may be vague with money. We may be vague with this or that goals. So many people probably come to you and have come to me. they think they know what they want. Oh, I want this or that, but they're vague.
Yeah.
And it's clarity, getting clear in your own head first, so you can be clear in your speech with the other person.
Exactly.
Something I spent many years working on, having been brought up with a speech impediment, where I would literally speak until my dad basically said, your granddad, Opa, he's not a native English speaker, so when he comes over for the summer holiday, slow down, open your mouth wide, Alex. If you can't do that, then shut up and don't say anything at all. So I just didn't say anything at all for like 17, joined a public speaking club and learned how to communicate clearly. And it's still an ongoing thing, particularly living in a country where English isn't the native language. I have to slow down so that people understand me and consciously remind myself of that. I mean, that's gone off now from sleep to communication. Not sure if you want to touch on anything there before I talk about consistency with you.
I just think the consistency with sleep is so important and so underrated. Other things when we're looking at sleep is not eating too close to bedtime, blue light exposure, like just how bright your lights are, looking at screens before bed. We could be here all day like talking about sleep if we were to continue on sleep, but I just think sleep, if we're not getting good sleep, we're not getting good health. Sleep is when our cells regenerate. It's when we recharge, when we get rid of waste. Or hopefully not get rid of waste while we're actually sleeping, but our body gets ready to get rid of waste. So when we wake up, we can go to the toilet, but we get rid of all these. So we detoxify a lot in our sleep. So if we're not prioritizing sleep, we're not prioritizing health, no matter what we say.
I mean, and that's it with like tip number 4 from your guy. Sort your sleep routine. And it's the whole thing here on one page. Just switch off. You don't need to watch. I love how you say Peaky Blinders because it's one of my fiance's favorite shows. And actually, the first time like in bed we were watching a show, it happened to be Peaky Blinders, like 2 a.m, whenever it was.
Wow.
Yeah, sleep. Lumi lamp or something like that. It's like, but basically, sleep is so important to pretty much everything. So the sleep solution. Anything else you want to say on sleep before we touch back on consistency?
No, I think we're good. If anyone has questions on sleep, then message me on social media. And if anyone has questions that they don't want to put up on here, message me on social media. I love to. It's not that I would just answer questions left, right, and center all the time. It's that I want to put out content that people want to see. So it might be if there's a question which I know other people want the answer to, I'll do a reel on it, or I'll just answer the question in the messages, especially if they're quite close to the heart.
Yeah, I'm just putting that up on the screen. Just give me a moment there. Best way to get in touch, for people to get in touch with you, what, at Ollie Matthews Health on Instagram? Is
Ollie
that right?
Matthews Health on Instagram. I'm the most active on Instagram.
Okay, the message at Ollie Matthews Health for questions. So people can see that on the screen there. Message you, and then maybe do a reel on it. That's what I love when people message me, and that gives the ideas for content. It's always from other people. In terms of consistency, because we were talking about that too. Consistency with whether it's health or business. I think that consistency is king. We just keep coming back to that again and again and again, whether it's consistent sleep routine, consistent like in the gym, consistent with what you're eating.
How much did we change things up with you? Honestly, if we look back, we worked together for what, 6-7 months?
6 months. And I was still doing the same. I think it was the same workouts. It was 4 times a week.
Accountability, right?
Yeah, that was it.
Maybe slightly with the intensity, but accountability is king. So we get consistency. We get that consistency with the workouts, and then we deal with roadblocks that come up and get over them. That these little hurdles we have to get over, and that's why we have these check-ins with people. But if like the workouts are the easy bit, we write that. And you get doing it, you tick when you've done it, and the same with like sleep or any habits we build in, any of those sorts of things. But I just really think that consistency is so underrated in a world where attention span is lower than ever. It's hard to be consistent, and it's hard because there's so many people throwing in our face how to do things better, to think, are we doing the right things? And I think trusting in yourself, belief, invest in people that know what they're talking about and do what they actually say. And I think that's so powerful. Like, if you look at people that invest in your work and invest in my work, they don't just invest and get the results. They have to do the work and be consistency. And yeah, attention span is just so limited nowadays. And social apps aren't helping us.
Exactly. I mean, we get bombarded with more today than we ever have in the past. 200 years ago, the information, like 200 years ago, people just didn't have that access to information. Like, electricity was still, like, lighting had just been invented. Let's be honest. The people you speak to in your village were probably the only people you speak to in your life. And a newspaper, like a typical like Sunday Times, or I don't know, like Daily Mail, whatever newspaper it is, doesn't matter. If someone back in the 1800s, that would be more information in that one newspaper than they would receive in the majority of their lifetime. That may sound overblown. That's actually been proven to be true.
Yeah.
And now we're beyond newspapers and the print and press. We are now at the digital, like, neo information age, where everyone has in their own pocket access to more information. This has more information in real time than you would ever have had in the history of humanity. And not only that, we're bombarded. People watching this now on their phones or laptops, whether it's like LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook, will also be seeing ads at the same time. They're being bombarded, plus the notifications that are going to be coming through. Even if you put on airplane mode, you walk out the door and you have like billboard and this, that, everyone grabbing your attention. It's insane.
And there's millions and millions of pounds, dollars, whatever you want to say, put into this marketing to fight for our attention. But one of the things so last year when I was in Colombia, we done a mastermind, and then we trekked down a mountain and whitewater rafted into the middle of nowhere in the rainforest and camped there overnight. I had 6 hours sleep, but it was the best 6 hours sleep I've had where there was no signal, no chance. Like, if you needed an emergency, you were screwed. But it was the best night's sleep I've ever had. I'm pretty certain of it. Just, you look at the depth of that, how little light pollution there was. We had light by firelight, pretty much the only light we had. And then that went out, we all went to bed, and it was just amazing sleep. And we just forget how powerful being in nature is. People that talk about like forest bathing, they just go in the forest and spend time there. And I'm lucky enough to live like 30 minutes away from the beach. So some people in the center of the country, they have to travel hours to get to the beach. And when you go there and spend time and you ground yourself, you breathe, it's like, I've got a program coming out with a guy called James O'Keefe who specializes in breathing. So we're linking forces, and just it's so powerful when you look at, we're not even getting the oxygen in because we're doing too much mouth breathing rather than nose breathing. If you're snoring through the night, you're not getting good sleep.
Yeah, that's something I learned when I did the Unbeatable Mind course many years back. It was by an ex-Navy SEAL instructor, Mark Devine. I was always breathing through my mouth, and maybe that's automatic. I don't know, is that what most people do?
Most people do, but again, what's common doesn't make it normal.
Exactly. Yeah, what's common doesn't make it normal. And it was only when I did that course, and the first module was like breathing through your nose and bog hearing. I was like, oh. So I started to consciously breathe through my nostrils, like so my mouth, out the nostril. And now I do that automatically since then. It's like, And only when I decide I want to breathe out from my mouth, which I sometimes do like that out, a big sigh, I do it. Now it's always through the nostril, but I never realized until I did that course and did some research into it. Another thing was that the forest bathing in the UK, I was fortunate to live 10-minute walk from the forest. So I went there every day, walking in the forest after 10 minutes off the road, 15 minutes amongst the trees. And I'll take my socks and shoes off and, basically be barefoot in the forest before going into my meditation. Lima is a city in the middle of the desert, so I can't do that anymore. There's a park outside my house. And that's kind of close to nature anyway. But then there's mountains and Cusco I can go to, or the Amazon rainforest. I go to Puerto Vallarta now. So it's like, fair enough. I haven't been to the Amazon since last year. I think I'll go back again. But nature is so important. Surrounding yourself with trees. Trees give us oxygen, and oxygen helps us breathe. Going back to the breathing we were just talking about. Breath is pretty important. If you forget to breathe, you're gonna
It's
die
true.
pretty
Yeah,
quickly.
that's true. And it's not just the getting oxygen in, it's the getting carbon dioxide out as well, remember?
Yeah.
And like people don't have that airflow in their homes, like sleeping, especially over here in the UK when it gets to winter time,
Mhm.
and sleeping with the windows shut, and then just have a build up of carbon dioxide as well.
Yeah, exactly. And like pretty much. And going back to what you were saying, I love that quote. I'm going to put it again on screen. Consistency is so underrated in a world where attention span is limited. I love that. That's like a Twitter phrase, I call it.
Yeah, we need to quote that and chuck that on there.
Chuck that on there. That create
One of Elon's forms.
yeah. But the other thing about that is, in terms of addiction, now I write about this in my book. Um, for me anyway, and I say this is why I call the first section of my book, which is 5 or 6 chapters, it's Your Mind's on Drugs, because it's about the addiction to thinking, which I believe is something that every human being on the planet. And the entire book is basically getting your mind off the drug or thinking. And people can buy that book next year, January or February, when it comes out. Second biggest addiction, I think, isn't a substance addiction like I know cocaine or alcohol or whatever. I believe it's not even social media. It's electronic time drunkenness, being time drunk on your phone, being
Like doom
time drunk.
scrolling and things.
Yeah, doom scrolling, this or that email, or any form of what I call time drunkenness on electronic media. It probably started, like, I don't know, when television became popular in the 50s and 60s, and American families, especially, they had their ready meal or their frozen meal in front of the TV, and then it gets worse and worse over time with social media. And it probably stops a lot of people from doing all the things like we spoke about sleep and nutrition, and this book, like, what can we do when when we have a phone in our pockets and kind of attached to it 24/7? I used to wake up and look at my phone first thing. What do we do?
First off, don't have your phone in the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
The bedroom's for 2 things: sleep and sex.
Mm-hmm.
Sorted.
Yeah.
Like if you got your phone as your alarm clock, buy an alarm clock. You just said about a Lumi lamp. That's an amazing alarm clock. I'm not tied with the company or anything. I've just used a Lumi lamp for so many years now. Love them. Like it's one of the best purchases I've had. But I think we don't want to demonize social media fully.
Mm-hmm.
We have our bit. We met over social media. You became a client because of social media.
We're on social media now.
Yeah, we're on social media. Our business is on social media, but it's the awareness. It's you're in a restaurant with your partner and they go to the toilet. What's the first reaction? Phone out, go there. Can we be alone? Can we leave our phone at home? I know that anyone that needs to contact me in emergency will have my wife's number.
Yeah.
If they don't have her number, it's not an emergency enough for me to deal with when we're on a date or something. It's not possible. And so can we leave our phones at home more? Could we just not go to the pocket so much? And things like, also, can we just dedicate some time for it? Can we just have an alarm and say, look, this is my half an hour of just watching dog videos? If you're a cat person, we probably won't get on, but watching dog videos like over and over again on Instagram. Can we do that just for half an hour or 15 minutes? And we know that that's our time where we're not guilty of it. The same as that I do like playing on PlayStation.
Yeah.
But I used to, like years ago, spend hours on it. Or like when it was like, I got Command and Conquer on my PC and I had like PS5 downstairs and then I'm playing Command and Conquer like just for like a 20-minute skirmish game. And it's absolutely awesome to have that stuff, but be aware of it. So we're not losing time and say we haven't got time to go to the gym. We haven't got time to eat healthy. We haven't got time to do these tasks in our business. But why? Well, actually, like, I haven't got time. You have, but you're just spending more than you realize from doom scrolling, being time drunk, as we want to say, or whatever we want to put it. If we're aware of this, and again, it's that communication coming up, communication with ourselves of what we're doing, and knowing if we are scrolling with this, we're not going to have time elsewhere. And it's a choice. It's a choice that we then get to make. And I think that if we can do that and practice more time switching off, practice more time just being present. There's a film called The Peaceful Warrior. Absolutely love it. An amazing film. It's the book is a true story with Dan Millman. You say you've seen it?
No, I've not seen that.
No, amazing film, but just talks about taking out the trash. They're walking through this park, and there's no spoilers in this scene, but walking through this park, and this guy who he calls Socrates, like, he pushes him in the water, and he's like, "What did you do that for?" Like, what were you thinking in that moment? It's like, exactly. You were present. You were here. You were now. And he said, "What's going on in this park?" Nothing. There's never nothing going on. There was a bird that was like trying to get a worm. There was like a bee trying to get pollen, a couple having their first kiss, a dog catching a frisbee. There was so many things going on, but so many times we're like this in our phone, we don't see the world going on around us. And that actual near visionness is impacting our eyesight. It's changing the shape of our eyes as well. Our eyes are also designed to look further away. Whereas just staring at this screen, our eyes need to move between distances. So looking at things further away. And we're TVs are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I love a big TV, don't get me wrong, but it's like more and more immersive, but we still also have to have time. And that's even reading books where we're in this text. Can we get out and just switch between near and far view as well? Because it helps with our eyesight, our vision, and our attention as well.
Yeah, just like switching views.
Exactly.
This is all really powerful stuff. So powerful that actually both viewers and likes suddenly peaked in the last couple of minutes as you were talking, especially when you were saying that. I just noticed now. But we're at the top of the hour, and I don't think we can go over. I did want to talk about this consistent timeout. We could kind of touch upon. Again,
we kind of touched upon
consistent metrics of performance. But people can download this from your website, OJHealth.
Yep.
OJHealth.com. Kind of at
OJAY Health.
OJAY have them pop that
OJAY.
Yeah. That's how they can get in contact with you. OJAYhealth.com. Insta, it's the best way to get in touch with you. Ollie Matthews health.com. Myself, you can get in touch with me and see the details at the bottom now if you want to. And for those of you who've seen this for the first time, hope you got a lot out of it. And this is every week now for the next 4 weeks. Next week it's we've got Will Polston.
Will's a good guy.
Oh, you know Will. Oh, awesome.
Yeah. I think I've been on his podcast.
You know his podcast. I was going to put you in touch with him. So. He was asking about people for his event. Actually,
yeah,
so
I think I commented. So nudge him, Will, if you're watching this. Reply to my comment, please.
That's Will next week.
I'm actively like, if anyone else is on here as well, that I'm looking to fill up my speaking slots to at least one a month next year. So January and February have already been taken. March, our new church opens, so that's out. But like April onwards, I'm all ears with any speaking gigs or podcasts or anything. Like, I'd love to. I can chat about this all day. So yeah,
lovely. So yeah, then we got we got Ollie looking for speaking slots, and people can just reach out to you. I've got a lot of results from you, so I can vouch for that.
Thank you.
I'm not going to send anyone the before and after photos. That's my own private thing, but
I think like let's just quickly touch on that before it goes. That people judge results sometimes just on the before and after photos, and we look at weight loss, but that does not tell the whole story. I don't like to put. You look at my success stories on my website. There's not loads of I don't think there is any. I think I might have taken them off, but it's videos, it's connections, it's people's stories about how this helped them with their business. And the functional medicine side of things isn't just about a body transformation. It's about getting rid of your brain fog. It's about improving your gut health, helping your hormones. If you're going through menopause, being able to help you through menopause in a much better way than Western medicine seems to do. If your testosterone's lowering, how we can improve that. If you're struggling with your sleep, how we can do all these things. It's not just about the weight loss. Usually the weight loss is a thing that comes as a result of just getting your body to function effectively.
Yeah, pretty much. It's the result of the consistency and the changes that will happen when you find an accountability partner and a coach, whoever that is. And from there, say we did have one person say, don't know who that was, it's a LinkedIn user, but thank you. Especially on their health journey. Migraines, food sums everything up. So reach out to myself, reach out to Ollie, leave a comment even after the live. And the only other final thing I want to say, next week we've got Will Polston. We both know. Week after that, Toby Howe, who I don't believe you know, Ollie. He was the HR director at EMEA Highbold, where I used to work at Highbold. We'll be talking about how HR is your ally. Week after that, I have Jennifer Payne, another former Highbold colleague, starting her own journey as a coach for women, and then break until the new year. Ollie, any final thoughts you want to leave anyone with?
Be proactive, not reactive with your health. if you've looked to start. And especially this time of year as well, don't wait till New Year. Start now. Like 2 months, well, a month and a half are left of the year. Just start doing something. And people, so many times they use the December time as an excuse because of different parties. I think that's what needs to be touched on, is that it's a bit of a longer final thought. But if you have where you've got 2 or 3 work nights out, you've got a couple of family nights out, then there's like New Year or something, there may be like 7 nights. That's 1 week out of 4, 5, 6 weeks that are left. But you don't want to sabotage the rest of your year for those 7 nights. Enjoy those nights. They're not necessarily full days, but enjoy that time and improve your health around that time by doing the minimum for maximum results.
Minimum for maximum result. Beautiful. Thanks, Ollie. Been wonderful.
No worries.
Yeah.